By the second and third, the troops are all across or ready to cross the Tennessee River. All the Union troops. As yet, Wood and Palmer have not crossed, nor has, so they still have got one division, two divisions that have not crossed on the second. They will cross on the third. Now, flip your map.
What number? Come on, Ed. In the microphone.
And the next map shows the situation.
Are we all here? Map what? Which map? Come on, which map?
This shows the situation upstream.
What map's that, Bob?
On the second, on the fourth.
So where you are?
All of Bragg's troops are assembled either around Chattanooga or covering the crossings of the Tennessee River upstream to about 60 miles away, as far as Decatur and Blytheville. You can see there's some Union troops, 4 brigades on the second are still watching 4 brigades, keeping them occupied. We'll go now quick. Look at what's happening upstream, where no Union troops are across the river.
I got 50 on your water. I'm not thinking that it's no problem. It's okay. No, I'm not going to say it's like it makes it rainfall the other way.
By September 9th,
I guess I know what you're doing.
in a period between the 4th and September 9th, where have the Union gone? We can see that General McCook is 40 miles south of Chattanooga. You can see that McCook has arrived there with his with 2 divisions of his corps at Valley Head, the head of Lookout Valley, Davis and Johnson, Stanley's cavalry. It's 40 miles from Valley Head to Chattanooga. At Johnson's Crook, Sheridan's division of McCook's command is at Johnson's Crook, where we're going to ascend Lookout Mountain, and Reynolds' 2 brigades of Reynolds' division of Thomas's Corps. Thomas's other divisions find Brannon and Trenton, where you have a spur railroad leading from Trenton into Chattanooga. You have Baird's division in Lookout Valley, and you have Negley's division is on top of Lookout Mountain. Passing to have reached Stevens Gap. You can see in the lower Lookout Valley, none of them being further northeast than Wauhatchie, are all of Crittenden's men. Wood, Van Cleve, and Palmer, and out in front of them is Wilder's Lightning Brigade. And on the 9th, Wilder's Brigade and Wood's Division will enter Chattanooga, which Bragg had departed on the 7th. So by the 9th, you can see the Union have occupied Chattanooga, Chattanooga, and before dark on the 9th, all of General Crittenden's men are in and around Chattanooga. On the 9th, on the morning of the 9th, on the morning of the 10th, General Langley will descend Stevens Gap, cross McLemore's Cove, cross the east fork of the west fork of the Chickamauga, and will be closing on Davis's Crossroads by the 10th. The Confederates have moved into position. Braggs has moved his headquarters to Lafayette. Be sure to say Lafayette. Now, our mutual friend Dennis Fry gave former President Carter a tour of Antietam. And after Dennis finishes the tour, former President Carter says, Mr. Fry, down in Georgia, we call him Lafayette, not Lafayette. So that was Dennis's compliment. He told that he mispronounced a Georgia word. So Bragg will have moved his headquarters to Lafayette. And it's there on the 9th. He is assembling his army west of Lookout Mountain and Pigeon Mountain. Pigeon Mountain is a spur of Lookout Mountain. Now think of your hand. Think of your right hand. Pigeon Mountain would be your thumb. Cut your forefinger off and figure Lookout Mountain as your middle finger. That extends all the way north, 90 miles from the area at a southern extension until it overlooks Chattanooga. Now, why are the Union troops being concentrated at 3 places? Up until the night, Rosecrans' whole plan is to capture Chattanooga. Now, to get to Chattanooga, you can cross Lookout Mountain in 2 places and go around it at 1. Now, the railroad and the road leading into Chattanooga cross past Moccasin Bend. The railroad has the low ground, the right of way, and the road into Chattanooga goes over a spur of Lookout Mountain, which will be the only time you'll notice that spur is when we go up on Lookout Mountain. And that's the route that General Crittenden's men are going. He commands the smallest corps, the 21st Corps, about a tad less than 15,000 men. There are 3 division corps, while Thomas commands the largest corps. He is going to have about 23,000 men moving in his 4 divisions. So Thomas is going to cross Lookout Mountain at the midpoint. As you ascend Lookout Valley and Lookout Creek, you'll have a railroad going from Chattanooga up to Trenton, where it ends. A small burg, the county seat of the county. Then the Lookout Valley continues southward, southeastward, westward, getting narrower into Willis Valley. So the best way to get out of Lookout Valley and to get into McLemore's Cove is to go up Johnson's Crook. Johnson's Crook is shaped like a fishhook. And you ascend Johnson's Crook like we will do on the bus. Descend from Lookout Mountain to Stevens Gap, which you cannot take the bus through. In fact, the only way you can get through Stevens Gap is hike through it. The road at that time comes down at Beatty's at a crossroads. So that will bring you into McLemore's Cove. Leading across McLemore's Cove, crossing the east fork of crossing the west fork of the Chattanoga. In the process will be the road leading from Beatty's Crossroads through Doug Gap on to Lafayette, where General Thomas's goal will be. General McCook's goal will, on leaving, on going up into Lookout Mountain, they're going to cross Lookout Mountain south of DeSoto Falls. Now, traveling with General Davis is his wife and General John Pope. Now, since he's changed, he's morphed into John Pope. So there would be your wife, traveling with Mrs. Davis and General Davis. And they're going to visit. It's a sightseeing tour for them. There's your map. They're going to visit DeSoto Falls, which is somewhat impressive since it has a 100-foot drop in wet weather, but it has about the same drop as a powerful shower in dry weather. So that's where, and then once you get over into Broomstone Valley, you're going to get to Alpine. Now when the vanguard, the cavalry gets to Alpine, they can go south 30 miles and be in Rome, Georgia. So on the 9th, everything is going swimmingly for General Rosecrans. He is traveling with General Crook as we've started up Sand Mountain. We're traveling up Sand Mountain, and we're going to descend into Lookout Valley, and go by where we ate 12 years ago, and strike Lookout Valley in the area of Trent. So we are crossing in the route followed by such great soldiers as the men of the Cooks War, Johnson and Davis. If that means this is Colton traveling along.
And the mic died.
Traveling with Greenland. All right, let's see. What's that? We're now getting ready to start up Sand Mountain. There's the Tennessee River. We're going up on Sand Mountain like we did 12 years ago. Up ahead of us is Raccoon Mountain. So we're starting up Sand Mountain. The southwesternmost point of Sand Mountain is near Birmingham, Alabama, which was then eating into Alabama. And this is going to bring us over into Lookout Valley. Stand by.
That would be the place to find the cheapest house in the country.
Pine Rock Springs Church on map 15. It appears between Claiborne and
What church?
Ridge.
Yeah.
Also find Crawfish Springs. So Crawfish Springs is going to be our next stop. Crawfish Springs is right above the name Paul.
Say it again.
So what Rosecrans
Change milk.
on the third trip
I got it.
is going to issue orders
Here's Lee's Ford. Here's Crawford Spring.
for General Polk Tour to assault a Union brigade, a Union division, which is reportedly at Lee and Gordonsville,
That looks a bit.
which we will point out.
This area was got a turn around, obviously.
And orders that, the orders are preempted in a way this time Bragg is lucky, but not his disposition. Because by the 13th, all of Clinton's tour, as you look briefly back and forth, on 14, you can see that Clinton's tour, Van Cleve and Palmer are at Ringo. Ringo is at Ringo's Gap. If you look at map 14, on the road and the railroad to go. On the evening of the, at this time, Woods Division will be moving into position at LG. LG is Lee and Gordon's Mill. That's where Wood is on the 11th, isolated. There he is on the 12th. But on the 9th of the 12th and 13th, he is joined. General Rosecrans has now realized he's in deadly peril. His army scattered from Princeton at Ringo Gap left to McCook, down near Valley Head, 40 miles. And he issues orders for his army to close on Princeton. So Princeton on the night of the 12th and 13th brings Van Cleve and Palmer down the Lee and Gordonsville. And that's where Bragg plans to assail him at Lee and Gordonsville. Again, not with larger numbers, but not overwhelming. Bragg thinks I can destroy Wood's division. But since Wood has been joined at Lee and Gordonsville by the morning of the 13th by Van Cleve and Palmer, would have been 5,000 men, have now become 15,000 men at Lee and Gordonsville. Bragg doesn't know this, and he keeps waiting for the sound of Polk's gun. The orders are preemptive. He wants to make sure no one screws up like they did at Davis's Crossroads on the 11th. And he finally gets tired of waiting. He rides up and runs into Polk. And he'll be pacing back and forth before he gets on his horse, cursing Polk. Think of it, cursing a bishop in the Episcopal Church, discussing his progeny, discussing what he has for brain, issuing a terrible oath about a man of God. And he'll be very unhappy with General Polk. It indicates that he gives orders both at McLemore's Grove, Davis Crossroads, and at Lee and Gordonsville that he believes will lead to the destruction of significant portions of General Rosecrans' army, and his generals don't get the word. They do not carry out these actions. So after the misfire of his attack on the 13th, never comes of anything, he'll then hold his men while he thinks. At a council of war held at Lafayette on the 14th, it is on the evening of the 14th, the morning of the 15th, it's decided we will now attack. We'll now move our army north, staying on the east side of the east fork of the Chattanoga. We will take a position north of the Union troops, cross the Chattanoga, and drive the Union forces, once we cross the Chattanoga, drive them into a cul-de-sac up at McLemore's Cove, where we have just left, and destroy the Union army. The attack is originally scheduled for the 17th, but on the 15th, he gets a message from General Longstreet. First knows where Longstreet is. Longstreet had left Gordonsville, Virginia, back on the 11th day of September. By the 14th of September, Longstreet, with a number of his troops, are at Atlanta. And he notifies General Wright he plans to be at Medusa Platform, CP on your map, just east of Ringgold by the morning of the 18th. So Wright postpones his attack on the Union forces till the 18th, the morning of the 18th. Meanwhile, McCook, as we cross Chickamauga, great, McCook has taken the long way around. As you look at your map, by the 14th, McCook is near Alpine. He's in Broomsage Valley, Broomstorm Valley. And instead of going south the direct way, General McCook goes back over Lookout Mountain, turns south down Lookout, turns north down Lookout Valley, goes up Johnson Brook, and comes to hand by the evening of the 17th. The Union Army is now concentrated. Britain's men at LG, Lee and Gordon's Mill on the left, the Union Cavalry of Mitty, and the Mounted Infantry Brigade of Wilder have moved up and are watching the crossings. Both at Reed's Bridge, Mitty's, and Wilder's watching Alexander's Bridge. General Thomas has taken position on Britain's left. Army headquarters have been moved to Lee and Gordon's Mill. Near our next stop at Columbus, and at Columbus Springs, and General McCook's men have closed in on the left in the area of Gordon's Mill. There you will see Sheridan, Davis, and Johnson. So the Union Army, which had been scattered over a 40-mile front, now has a consolidated front with its left at the and Gordon's Mill, and it's right about near Glasses Mill and Pond Spring, approaching Pond Spring. And on the morning of the 18th, you will see the positions right launches his attack. His attack order provides for Forest Cavalry, having the lead, will advance eastward on the Reed Bridge Road, straining the advance of Bushrod Johnson's Bushrod. General and force crossing at Reed Bridge. William Henry Talbot Walker shot out, caused that from his Mexican War and his Indian War wounds that he has to sleep sitting up. But he doesn't have much longer to worry. And he's going to be killed at the Battle of Atlanta on the 22nd day of July.
Don't worry about it.
So he will cross
We're suffering will soon.
Everything will be okay.
Butler will cross at Thetford's Yard, and General
Case of
Polk
foresight being
will
2020.
cross at Dalton's Ford. General Hill will be in reserve. They've got to keep Forrest and Queer separated
Koreans.
as they detest each other. Forrest will be on the Confederate Army right there. Queer will be on the Confederate Army left. When they get across, they're a place early in the day on the 18th at Reed Bridge. A little later at Alexander's Bridge, they will move inland a short distance and then pivot to the left. This will uncover Alexander's Ford, where Walker will cross, and the Confederate Army will advance from north to south. As soon as Thetford's Ford is uncovered, Butler will cross, deploy his men facing south, and Polk crosses, which he will not on the 18th, will cross the big position on Butler and left, and they will advance southward and drive the Union forces into Baton Rouge, where they will force to be surrendered.
Establishing the average weekly wage.
General Hood will come up when the fighting is still on at Reed's Bridge, and having arrived at the platform with the vanguard of Longstreet's command. Longstreet with the rear guard of his corps, and one brigade will arrive and be trained at Medusa platform west of Taylor's Ridge on the morning, late on the afternoon of the 19th. Longstreet undoubtedly uses a lot of profanity because neither Bragg or Bragg can't be there. No officers, senior officer will be there and tell him what's going on. We're now entering Chattanoga. Up until after the park is established, this was known as Crawfish Spring. But no respecting Chamber of Commerce type like Marshall Crowley would want to live in a town named Crawfish Spring. After the establishment of the park, it is named Chattanoga, so it has a more respectable name. Located here at Crawfish Springs is a Lee Gordon mansion. If you're a high roller, you stay there and have been converted into. And that is where most transit headquarters are going to be from this evening of the 16th of the morning of the night. And Lee and Gordon's mill. Lee and Gordon at the Lee Gordon house. And we're going to park up there. Crawfish Springs is going to be on our right. At least they didn't change the name of the springs. And the mansion will be on our left. We'll have a pile of cannonballs in the front yard to indicate it was General Rosecrans' headquarters from the 17th to the morning of the 19th. Week, the end of the third week of passed and signed by the president on the President Cleveland, a Democrat, and I should argue, no, it's Harrison's administration. But later, Gettysburg will be established when that draft dodger over Cleveland is president of the United States. So out of that will come our first national military park. So rather significant what happens here before we even talk about the battle.
We are at Crawfish Springs. Today, this is the community of Chickamauga, Georgia. But at the time of the campaign in 1863, there was no town or village or anything here. This was the farms of the Gordon and Lee families. But this was the largest spring in this immediate area. I've mentioned now a couple of times that this campaign is unfolding in a drought year. A drought that had begun in 1862, continued into 1863, and this doesn't mean that there was no rain from 1862 on, just less rain than normal. There were periodic episodes of rain, like in late June and early July during the Tullahoma phase, but a lot less rain than normal. And Ed talked earlier about the H2O requirement of horses so that they can produce their required quantity of urine on a daily basis. These armies are going to consume a great deal of water on a daily basis. The smaller springs are drying up, and only larger springs, like Crawfish Springs here, or Brown Spring back by Trenton, or Cloud Spring just north of the battlefield, only those are still flowing at a level, a volume, that is really capable of meeting the needs of, say, 5,000 troops at a time as they pass by this area. And so for the Union Army, Crawfish Springs becomes a key water source. And for the bulk of the Union troops engaged in the Battle of Chickamauga, the last water they get before going to be engaged, whether they are engaged on 3 days, 2 days, or 1 day, is water from Crawfish Springs. And so just about every federal division, since it's going to march up from the south, is going to come up similar to the way we just have. They're going to stop here. The men are going to break ranks, come down and fill their canteens, and then fall in and march to the north. And the next day or the next hour become engaged in the Battle of Chickamauga. Most soldiers are going to fight the battle in a single quart of water, 1 canteen of water. Now that might be 3 days, 2 days, or 1 day. But this is the principal water source for the Union Army. Now, in my coming here now for 30 years, the volume of water coming out of the ground here at Crawfish Springs has diminished greatly. It has diminished greatly in just the last 5 years and 10 years. As the population density in this area has increased, the city of Chickamauga is pumping more of the water out of the aquifer before it bubbles out on onto the surface of the earth. And so the spring does not flow anything like it did 16 years ago, or when I first saw it in 1982, or Ed was, what, 58 when you were first here?
First year at 54.
54. And so,
already done his superintendent.
yeah, okay. The spring has diminished its flow, but it's still an important landmark. Do you want to pick up the battle piece? Do you want to pick up the piece coming out of McLemore's Cove, the campaign? Okay.
I'll pick up at the end.
All right. Rosecrans has ordered the consolidation. It's going to take several days for the elements of his army to get back together again, in part because McCook and the cavalry are going to largely recross Lookout Mountain before moving up and climbing over Lookout Mountain again into McLemore's Cove. And as I told the folks on my bus, the thing that really slows Rosecrans down in consolidating the army is all of those little packets of 25, 50, 75, 100 wagons have to be caught up with and redirected on new routes. So those wagons that left 2 days ago to go back to Stevenson, somebody's got to go find them and give them the word that when they get back to Stevenson and pick up their new load of supplies, they don't come back to the troops the way that they have gone. They've got to go another way. Those wagons that are already loaded part the way back to the troops, they have to be directed a new way. And this is going to really be what slows Rosecrans down in getting all the elements of his army back together again. But slowly on September the 14th, 15th, and 16th, this begins to happen. Now, Bragg, after the debacle in McLemore's Cove on the 11th, will that night withdraw the troops from McLemore's Cove back to the east side of the Pigeon Mountain Range and begin to analyze the intelligence that he has. On September the 12th, Nathan Bedford Forrest reports that a federal force, Tom Crittenden's 21st Corps, will move to the area of Lee and Gordon's Mill. The day before, a portion of Crittenden's men, Tom Wood's small division, had moved down from Rossville Gap to Lee and Gordon's Mill, where the Lafayette Road between Chattanooga and Lafayette crossed Chickamauga Creek. Now on the 12th, Palmer's division and Van Cleve's division march over from Ringgold to the area of Lee and Gordon's Mill. And this is observed, sensed by Forrest, and reported to Bragg. And Braxton Bragg, at his headquarters in Lafayette, becomes convinced that Crittenden's Corps is hung out all by itself in the area of Lee and Gordon's Mill and is ripe for the picking. Late on September the 12th, Braxton Bragg turns to his senior subordinate, Leonidas Polk, and says, General Polk, take your corps of 2 divisions, Cheatham and Hindman's division, take William Henry Talbot Shot Pouch Walker's small 2-division reserve corps, take Simon Bolivar Buckner's troops, essentially take more than half of the available Confederate infantry, and launch an assault on Crittenden from the area of Lee and Gordon's Mill on the morning of the 13th. Well, on the morning of the 13th, Braxton Bragg, before dawn, swings into the saddle in Lafayette and rides north from Lafayette to Rock Spring Church. There, he hopes to soon hear the sound of a major clash as Polk, with more than half of the infantry of the army, falls on Tom Crittenden. And indeed, that morning, Polk will advance. He will send his 2 divisions up the corridor of the Lafayette Road. Walker and Buckner move up 2 other roads parallel and off to the east just a little ways. And as Polk's men advanced up the Lafayette Road that morning, all of a sudden, coming south on the Lafayette Road is a federal force. It is Horatio Van Cleve's division. Because that morning, Tom Crittenden at Lee and Gordon's Mill having seen all this dust out in the air out there in front of him, wants to know what is going on. And so Crittenden ordered Van Cleve to conduct a reconnaissance in force down the corridor of the Lafayette Road. And as Van Cleve passed the Henderson House, the Snow Hill estate, as Polk advances north past the Jones House, all of a sudden there is some contact between those two forces. It's not a big fight, just a little one. It's enough to kill Van Cleve's chief of artillery, Drury, but all of this fight all of a sudden happened. What was Leonidas Polk expecting to do? Attack a federal force, right? And now all of a sudden that morning, what does it seem like those Federals are doing to him? Advancing on him.
He has a preemptory order, too.
That's right. It's a preemptory order.
No ands, ifs, or buts.
Yeah, it is. Advance and attack.
Even the Lord can't tell him his stance.
That's right. Advance and attack Crittenden in the area of Lee and Gordon's Mill. There ain't no discretion in that order. Bragg has learned from the 11th and 10th from the previous weeks that he needs to be real specific, and now he has issued this clear and specific order to Leonidas Polk. But that morning, as Polk advanced, he runs into Van Cleve. What do we know about Polk as, in particular, a tactical battlefield commander? Think about Murfreesboro and Perryville. Is he much of a battlefield commander? No. And now all of a sudden, there's this little fight in the area of the Snow Hill estate, the Snow Hill post office, the Jones house, and the Conley house. And what does Leonidas Polk do? He turns around and marches back to Rock Spring Church. Who is sitting there at Rock Spring Church on his horse, expecting to hear the sound of a big clash? Braxton Bragg. What do you do, Braxton Bragg? Yeah, you are a little PO'd, but all you do is express your dissatisfaction, and then you turn your horse's head and you ride south to Lafayette. Braxton Bragg did not take command of the situation. He could have essentially displaced Polk and said to Hindman, Cheatham, Buckner, Walker, we're launching this attack. But he did not. He rode back to his headquarters in Lafayette. Well, what was Van Cleve's responsibility? Conduct a reconnaissance in force. Are there sizable numbers of Confederates in your front? Well, guess what Van Cleve has determined? There are a sizable number of Confederates in our front. And has Van Cleve accomplished his mission? Yes. So what does Van Cleve do? He turns around and goes back. And now Polk has gone back, and there is no more action on the 13th. This frustrates our friend Braxton Bragg. And for the next 3 days, the 14th, 15th, and 16th, the Confederate Army of Tennessee sits idle. What does Rosecrans, who moves his headquarters to the home of the Gordon Lee Mansion across the street from us, what does Rosecrans do on the 14th, 15th, and 16th? Consolidates troops of Thomas stretch up to join on Crittenden. Troops of McCook come over Lookout Mountain to join on Thomas, and they begin to stretch up towards Crittenden and Lee and Gordon's Mill. The Army of the Cumberland is starting to get back together again. As this occurs, does William Stark Rosecrans have concerns? Indeed he does. As Rosecrans looked at his maps, and if you were following along in the map book, we would now be going to essentially map number 15. As Rosecrans looked at his maps, eventually laid out here at the Gordon Lee Mansion, he said, Crittenden is in the area of Lee and Gordon's Mill, which is off to the east of us there. Thomas is coming up from the southwest. McCook is to the southwest of him. But between Crittenden at Lee and Gordon's Mill and Chattanooga, there is a space of almost 16 miles. What is in that space? Almost nothing. Is Rosecrans concerned about that space? Yes. Rosecrans says, if I were Braxton Bragg, what would I do? I'd try to get between me and Chattanooga with Lookout Mountain behind Rosecrans. Rosecrans realizes that he needs to at least guard that space. And increasingly, some small bodies of troops are becoming available to William Stark Rosecrans. On the 13th and 14th, elements of the Reserve Corps begin to arrive in the Chattanooga area, and Gordon Granger is ordered to put those troops astride an important road of the time, the I-75 of 1863 between Chattanooga and Atlanta, a road that does not even appear on Dave Roth's great Blue-Gray magazine maps. A road that ran from Rossville Gap to Ringgold, Georgia. The Rossville-Ringgold Road, as that stretch was called, it's actually part of the old Federal Road. Granger has put astride that important road out in front of Rossville Gap. Let's see here. I'll try to illustrate this with a few people. So I'm going to make you, you're Van Cleve, you're in good shape. And Ellen, I'm going to make you part of Crittenden. Rob, you're still Tom Crittenden. And Eric, you're the other part of Crittenden. So you all are at Lee and Gordon's Mill off there. Well, on September the 13th and 14th, thank you for volunteering, Ray. So stand up and join me. So you represent Gordon Granger's people have become available, and you were placed astride that important I-75 of 1863, the old Federal Road, the Rossville-Ringgold Road. That drive, it comes down from Chattanooga, where we have just a small Union garrison, through Missionary Ridge, Rossville Gap, and then runs on towards Ringgold and points to the south. Well, on September the 15th, a small body of Federal cavalry under Robert H.G. Minty, an Englishman. Say something with an English accent. Okay. They become available, and they are put astride a road that crosses Chickamauga Creek at Reed's Bridge. What's Rosecrans essentially doing to this space between Chattanooga, and I've forgotten your name, Paul, between Paul at Chattanooga and Crittenden at Lee and Gordon's Mill? He's beginning to divide it up. He has put troops into it first on that important road, and then on another road across the creek, and then on September the 17th, I'll make you a Yankee now. On September the 17th, he puts John Thomas Wilder's brigade of mounted infantry into that space as well. In some ways, as Rosecrans has done this, he has essentially divided that space in half. Now, Granger is not exactly halfway between Lee and Gordon's Mill and Chattanooga. He's a little closer to Chattanooga. But in some ways, the first troops available were put kind of halfway into that space. What you're guarding against is any approach of Confederates right there in your front. Then the next troops that became available, Minty, that space between the main body and Granger is divided by Minty going into that space. And you're patrolling out there in your front. And then on the 17th, Wilder's brigade becomes available, and where are you put? Halfway between Minty and Crittenden, you're placed at Alexander's Bridge. Rosecrans is looking at the situation saying, if I'm the enemy, what's Bragg going to try to do to me? And he's basically figured it out. Because on the same days, Nathan Bedford Forrest Cavalry is reconnoitering in this area and reporting to Braxton Bragg. And on September the 15th and 16th, Braxton Bragg becomes increasingly aware that the main body of the Union Army begins here at Lee and Gordon's Mill. The rest of the Union Army is still marching up from the southwest, and that between Lee and Gordon's Mill and Chattanooga are very few Union troops. And what Bragg decides to do is, if he can march his troops up from the south and in from the east rapidly enough, he will hopefully be able to stick them in between the Union Army and Chattanooga, and then attack the Union Army with that wall of Lookout Mountain behind them. You all have now driven over Lookout Mountain. Would that be an easy feature for the Union Army to withdraw over on a single road if they are being attacked? Not at all. Bragg essentially is going to want to drive the Union Army against that wall of Lookout Mountain. Bragg's plan is actually a very good one. The problem is Bragg and his senior subordinates do not get along with one another to fully understand it and understand how to implement that plan. But one of the most important things about what's now about to happen that brings on the Battle of Chickamauga is, what has Rosecrans anticipated? Has Rosecrans anticipated the very thing that Bragg is now about to try? Yes. Has he totally defended this space between his army and Chattanooga? No. But has he put at least the early warning mechanism in place so that when Bragg went to implement this plan on September the 18th, after only moments of marching, what do Confederate soldiers observe in their front? Scouts from these various federal forces. And as you, Wilder, and Minty, and Granger observe those Confederate columns that morning, what do you immediately begin to do? Report back to General Rosecrans, Bryan here at his headquarters at the Gordon Lee Mansion, and Rosecrans all of a sudden begins to see what? The enemy's trying to do exactly what I thought they were going to try to do.
Point out the effect of the Bragg's attack. If he had not got the telegram from Hood knowing that he's going to be 2 days getting here, would have taken place on the 17th, not the 18th.
Bragg develops this intelligence about this essential space between Rosecrans and Chattanooga, largely based on reports from Forrest on the 15th and 16th. And his initial orders for this operation are issued on the 16th for an attack on the 17th. However, late on the 16th, he received the telegraphic message about the arrival of additional troops from their Hood's division of Longstreet's Corps passing through Atlanta and coming north. And Braxton Bragg says more men are coming, more men are good, and he orders a postponement, a delay by 24 hours. What does that 24-hour delay cost him? When did I tell you you were placed at Alexander's Bridge? On September the 17th, the afternoon of the 17th. So you were there on the 18th. If Bragg had gone early on the 17th, John Thomas Wilder would not have been at Alexander's Bridge. And how much further away would Thomas's and McCook's and the Stanley's Crook's men been on the 17th as opposed to the 18th? So by waiting a day for more troops, what has Bragg potentially lost?
24 hours.
Yeah, 24 hours, and the Federals are that much more consolidated. Yes, sir.
Okay, if Bragg sweeps away the Union troops and gets into Chattanooga, the Union troops come behind him.
Now he's not trying to go back to Chattanooga.
Okay.
He's trying for a battle of
He's trying
annihilation.
for a knockout punch.
That's
Trying
right.
to the destruction of Rosecrans' entire army.
But if he backs up the Union to Lookout Mountain, he can't take them there because
Well,
then they
He's going to
occupy.
drive them back into the cul-de-sac.
Well, they have high ground then.
Well, what he's hoping is that he's essentially going to stampede them against that wall where there are very few doors through it, and that will break up the army. Or cause the army to withdraw in a fair amount of disorder back over first Lookout Mountain, then Sand Mountain, and back to Bridgeport and Stevenson. He's essentially looking to set the clock back a few days, a couple of weeks. If he gets really, really lucky, maybe a couple of months.
And also it's important because Rosecrans will have this early warning. And as soon as it gets dark on the evening of the 18th, he tells General Thomas, I want you to start your men north of the video. I want you to start your men north. You're going to leave here after dark. And you're going to march by way north. And I want you to take position near where the visitor center is now. And by daybreak on the 19th, 2 divisions are already up there. And we'll hear all about them tomorrow, the divisions of Brannan and Barron. So if he had not made that night march, the Confederate movement would still have worked.
It just seems like it's kind of the same battle plan as Stone's River, but in hotter temperatures, less forage. I mean, you know.
In some ways, Bragg is looking to conduct a wheel to then drive the Union Army.
It didn't work the first time. What made him think it was going to work this time?
Well, you always, his plan is a good one at Stone's River. He's going to look back.
Yeah.
And he said, he would say in his mind, if Jefferson Davis and Joe Johnston were not here on the 11th and 12th, I would have another 9,000 men. Because over both Joe Johnston's recommendation, he will detach Stevenson's 9,000 men to go to Vicksburg. They arrived too late at Vicksburg to be any use. And he's going to say, if I had those 9,000 men at Stone's River on the 31st, there's no way Rosecrans would have saved his army.
And
you look back at what might have been. What might have been.
But I mean, you're talking about forage.
What would have happened?
Their supply line has to be, the railroad to the west is cut off, right?
Whose railroad?
Bragg's, right? So
No, it's still operating. Rosecrans has never been able to interdict the Western Atlantic Railroad.
Okay, the Western Atlantic. Okay. So we still got some, but I mean, the whole South is in drought. Where's his forage coming from?
Well, that is a problem for Bragg. He is short of some critical supplies. Bragg's greatest logistical shortcoming is not a shortage of any individual quantity of supplies, but it is in the transportation to haul it. There is plenty of stuff down in Atlanta, but the state of Georgia is running the railroad between Atlanta and Bragg's army, and they're running the railroad on their schedule, not Bragg's schedule. And so Bragg is not getting everything he needs from Atlanta. And then, even when supplies do come up by rail to the army, Braxton Bragg's army is terribly short of wagons. And now his army has gone from 45,000 men to eventually engaged at Chickamauga 66,000 men, and the majority of those additional 21,000 soldiers, 15,000 of them at least, came to Bragg's army with no wagons whatsoever. Bragg was too short transportation for 45,000 men. Now he has at least 60,000 men who have to be served by the same too few wagons for 45,000 men. And so he has limited mobility for his the movement of his
So in the
army.
position he was in, you would say he had to fight now. He was probably going to be replaced. He tried to save himself. You can see why.
He's got to fight. He's been reinforced. His army was 45,000. Now it is at least 60,000. Actually, he probably, on the 18th, he probably does not know his exact strength. Because literally, brigades are arriving over on the Western Atlantic Railroad just below Ringgold almost all the time, and Bragg does not know of the scheduled arrival of these troops. He probably knows he has 60,000, maybe a little more than 60,000, but his army is now 15,000 stronger than it was. He seems to have this opportunity. He actually has a very accurate picture of the battlefield at that moment, thanks to Nathan Bedford Forrest, and he says, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try to get in between the Union Army and Chattanooga, and then attack and crush them against the mountain. But does he have the subordinate command structure to carry that out? That's going to be the problem.
Excuse me, Joey, we got to go to the next stop.
All right? Yep.